Aye, shepherd's pie. Greetings from the Philippines. Welcome back to the channel. Gonna do a little video today on the cost of living in the Philippines. Touched on this before. I've made a couple of videos on it before. Can you live on $1,000 a month? 15,100 pesos a day, the honey spot. But the reality is, the longer you stay in a country, the more you learn about living costs. And I've reappraised a lot of, as I've gone along, I've basically my living costs have changed. So I thought it was appropriate to make another video. And it's an emotive subject, this is something I can't quite get my head around, because we've all got different ways of living, so when you make a video, can you live on $1,000 a month, you'll always get a load of responses saying, yeah, you can, it's easy. But you'll get others saying, no, you can't, it's impossible, I've got a 4-bedroom condominium villa with a swimming pool and it cost me. Yeah, well, it depends entirely on your lifestyle. Of course it does. It depends what island you live. It depends on the standard of living in terms of accommodation you want. Not everyone lives the same way. Now, if you want to eat Western food in restaurants every day, it's going to cost you more than if you buy your own food from a market. So I'm going to look at what I would call the 3 brackets of living over here. Starting with the basic amount I think you can live relatively comfortably in the Philippines, to the amount that you can live a fantastic life and do more or less whatever you want. I'm going to be talking in US dollars, and I'm going to be talking in English pounds. Obviously, if you're from Australia or Canada, you can do the maths yourself, work out what you're doing. Because I say it's easy. I mean, I've only been here 8 months. I may end up doing another video in a few months because my opinions have changed again. But my living costs have increased over the last few months for a variety of reasons. But they fluctuate from month to month. The last month I've had has been quite cheap. But you've got to factor that in, when you're looking at your averages. So let's start with $1,000 a month. You get a lot of videos about $1,000 a month in the Philippines. And I have lived on $1,000 a month. Not intentionally, it just happened. The first month I was in Dumaguete, I lived on $1,000 a month. Didn't budget for it. It's just what it turned out being. It was $1,000 the first month. When I moved to Siquijor, it increased dramatically. Not the first month I was there, because if you watch the channel, I was going month in Siquijor, month in Dumaguete. But it increased because I was socialising a lot more, I was eating out a lot more. But then when I moved to Siquijor, and I moved out of a guest house and I got a place, it dropped down again. I wasn't socialising as much. But there's always extra costs. So when I said you could live comfortably on 1,500 pesos a day in terms of spending money, well, I could to start off with, but once I moved into my own place and I had to buy stuff for the kitchen and the settee and all that kind of stuff, it increased. So you've got to be realistic about these things. So let's look at the $1,000 a month. Can you live on $1,000 a month in the Philippines? Yes, you can. But I'm going to call it pretty basic living. And some people want pretty basic living. You can get, it depends on the island, but let's talk about Negros, for example. You can get a furnished bedsit or studio, whichever you want to call it, for 8,000 pesos a month, furnished. You can probably get them slightly cheaper. You could pay a lot more. It's not really going to be luxury. But if you're if you're comfortable with simple living, you can do that. If you do that, if you don't use your aircon too much, maybe your bills are going to be. I mean, my last bill in Sikihor was 1,090 for the electricity for the month and 100 for the water. So it wasn't a lot. You know, when I had my apartment in Sibilan, everything was included. But let's say, the guy who lives next door to me where I live now, he was saying he was paying 8,000 a month for his utility bills in Cebu, but he had his aircon on all the time and it was a bigger place. But if you're going to live on a budget, I think you can because you're going to have to be careful on $1,000 a month US, which is about just over £800 English. You're not going to be able to have your aircon on that all the time. But if you live up somewhere in Valencia where it's cooler and the rental prices seem to be cheaper, you won't need it on all the time. But if you say about 2,000 a month for your utility bills, you should be able to live within that. Maybe you'll rent a bike, maybe you'll buy a bike, maybe you don't need a bike. But that's going to add on to your costs. You can rent a bike in Dumaguete for 5,000 pesos a month. Obviously, if you buy one, yourself, then that's a cost that you don't have to consider. Maybe you got the money to buy a property over here. Not saying I would recommend that, but obviously if you buy a place or build a place, you don't have your rental costs. I mean, if you do that from the start and you buy a bike, and then you're talking about living on $1,000 a month, then I'm sure it is doable. It'll be a lot easier because you haven't got the rent coming out and you haven't got the bike coming out. But you're going to have your visa costs on top of that. Whether you're going to get a retirement visa or marriage visa, or you're just going to keep in your tourist visa. I mean, this is a cost that you're going to have regularly each month. I think I worked out mine's about 35 pounds a month. It works out, I think, roughly around that figure for my visas. But then I use an agency, so you got the fees on top of that. You could do it yourself online. You've also got your insurance costs, health insurance. Now this is a big one. This is what I think a lot of people don't seem to take into account when they're doing their budgeting. I'm not quite sure how you could live with $1,000 a month and have adequate health coverage. But maybe you get to a certain age, a lot of people have to insure, because the older you get, the insurance is going to go up, and a lot of companies won't cover you past a certain age. So it's not a question of what your monthly costs are, or not just a question of what your monthly costs are. It's what emergency funds you've got, because you need emergency funds on top of that. A lot of insurance companies, even if you've got coverage, they're not going to pay out straight away. You're going to need the money if you have an accident, or something like that. So it's important you take these into account. You don't want to be anywhere in Asia. You don't want to be anywhere in the world, without adequate insurance. But, so you need to factor that in. So it will depend on your age. It will depend on pre-existing conditions. It will depend on a lot of things. But if we say, let's say around the £300 a mark, which would be, under $400, you could easily cover your accommodation, your rental, your utility bills, and your visa, if you're going to live like on a low budget. Medical insurance, again, that's a big one. It depends what it's going to cost. It depends on your age, depends on anything, but you need to factor that in. You really do. Now that's going to leave you $600 a month for groceries, entertainment, things like that. It's doable, but you're going to have to be frugal. You're not going to be able to eat Western food if that's what your bag is. If you like your Western food, no, you might be able to once a week or whatever. If you're someone who likes to go out and drink and socialise, you're going to find it very tough on that kind of budget. But it's doable. I mean, I've met a lot of people who've done that over there, done it over here. I know a lot of people here who are still doing it. But I'm not convinced they've got adequate insurance and stuff like that. It's their choice, but you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices if you're going to live here on $1,000 a month, in my opinion. Or I would have to make a lot of sacrifices because I like to eat out. I like to do things. I don't want to worry about money. But if you are a kind of solitary person, if you get your kicks from, you know, walking, doing your own cooking and things like that, yeah, then it's doable for a single person. But I think really you've got to be looking, personally, I think you'd be looking around the $500 mark. If you had $1,500, which would be about £1,200, you should be able to cover your insurance and things like that. You'll be able to go out a bit more. You'll be able to live what I think is a comfortable life. Certainly in Negros, certainly in a place like Sigil, possibly not in Cebu City or Manila, but certainly in a lot of the smaller towns and certainly in most of the provinces. But again, it's what you want to do. I mean, some people want to live off grid. I mean, I'm talking about 8,000-10,000 pesos a month, you know, for a small studio in somewhere like Dumaguete. But if you want to go and live in the provinces, you can get places for like 2,000 a month. If you want to really live like a native, you want to live off grid, you want to have solar, you know, if that's what you want to do, it's doable. You know, it's doable. Each to their own. But I would certainly say around the $1,000 mark is a push. It would be a push. But I say it can be done. $1,500, you start getting into the a more comfortable way of living. If you go up to the $1,500 mark, to say 2,500, 3,000, you can have a very comfortable life. Very comfortable life. You'll be able to afford a car, better standard accommodation, you know, a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartment, you know, house, possibly a place for a swim, you know. Yeah, once you get to that level, you'll be doing all right. So I understand from talking to people that the average or the full American pension, the average American pension is about £1,500 a month, $1,500 a month, sorry. I think the UK state pension is just over 800, which is just over 1,000. So you can live in the Philippines, I believe, on, you know, an American state pension or on a UK state pension. But as I say, you'd need to have a bit more. And if you've got a small private pension on top of that, it's going to make your life a lot easier. But you've got to think about the medical insurance. You need to have funds to be able to self-insure. Honestly, if you can't afford to do that, then I think you need to think twice about moving to Asia. But then again, that's an easy thing to say. Because a lot of people, I mean, if you're living in the UK, just on a state pension, if you don't own your house, you're going to struggle. You're probably going to struggle if that's all you got, even if you own your property. So who's to say whether, you know, you should take the risk and come out here and risk having a heart attack or a stroke compared to struggling to make ends meet every day in your home country? Who knows? That's a decision you've got to make. But, you know, don't want to get sick or end up destitute in a country like the Philippines. So let's just say for the $1,000 to $1,500 a month, what's that, £800, £1,200 a month, you can live okay here. You can live okay here. But once you get past that, you get into what I would call the very comfortable living zone. You can definitely live out here comfortably, $1,500 to $3,000 a month. You won't want for much. Again, it depends on your circumstances. Obviously, if you've got a wife, I personally think if you've got the right wife and you're living of a certain thing, you can, $1,500 a month, I think, can do it. Obviously, if you've got some kids or whatever, that's going to whack your costs up. But if you've got, you know, around the $2,500 to $3,000 a month income coming in, you're going to be all right. Once you get past that, once you're in, like, you know, the $3,000 a month plus, my God, you'll be able to live well over here. 3,000 to 4,000. I think you could live in any city that you want to in the Philippines. You could live like a king in Negros. Could live pretty well, I'm sure, in Manila and Cebu. Could have an active social life, you know, do what you want to do. Live in decent accommodation, you know, it's same in Thailand though. You know, once you get past the 3,000, if you say $4,000 or $5,000 a month, you live fantastically in any Asian country, except maybe Singapore. But yeah, I mean, you've just got to budget and you've got to know what you're getting yourselves into. I mean, there's a difference between monthly living costs and emergencies and incidentals. There has always been something that I've had to spend extra over here. A lot of it's from its YouTube channel. You know, I bought a new couple of new cameras, cost a bit of money. My laptop's starting to go out the way, so I'm going to have to get another laptop at some stage. So there'll always be something that will hit you. I say things will go up and down. One month you might live on $2,000 a month. The next month you might live on $1,000. Just because of the way things worked out. You know, you haven't gone out particularly a lot that month. You know, you haven't had to buy anything. But you need to plan for this. So it's one thing to plan your monthly living costs, and it's one other thing to have funds to be able to buy incidentals and stuff like that. Whether you want to travel around the islands, I mean, these are all associated costs. But it's what you make of it. You know, I don't understand why people say you can't live on $1,500 or you can't live on $1,000 a month. You can. I know a lot of people who are doing it. And I know a lot of people who are living on 5,000 plus a month. And they can't get their heads around the fact that other people wouldn't want to. And when I say wouldn't want to, I mean, a lot of people can't. But even if I could, I wouldn't want to, in the sense that I would have to change my lifestyle drastically. You know what I mean? It's like, I go to the gym regularly. I like to keep fit. I don't want to eat out every night in Western restaurants and that. You know, I'm going to get fat. You know, I like to limit what I go out with and the amount I drink, and which will surprise some people on the channel, with staying relatively fit. You know, so I try now. I mean, I do try and stay in at least 3 nights a week. Not because I couldn't afford to go out those nights, but I think it's good to, you know, stay and have a quiet night. It's better for you. There's no point going to the gym if you're going to go out drinking that night, you know, and have like, you know, a 18-inch pizza. So a couple of people have offered me the opportunity to rent their houses in Valencia. But they've got gardens and things, or swimming pools. I don't want that. I don't want the hassle of a swimming pool. I don't want, you know, to have to cut grass. Yeah, I know you can get people in. You know, you can get them to cut, and it's cheap to get work stuff over here. But I'm just saying, you know, if I was to do everything I want to do, I don't want to eat in the poshest restaurants. Sometimes I will. You know, it's nice to go out with your girlfriend and have a nice meal in a great restaurant. But a lot of the time, I'm happy with a Krispy King. You know, so I mean, I can't envisage ways that I would want or I would spend $5,000 a month. I don't want a big flash car because I've got a motorbike. I smashed it up a couple of times. You know, I don't want to be worrying about a car on these bumpy roads and things. I mean, I might buy a car at some stage if I stay here. I don't really want to rent a place for a swimming pool right now because I'm planning on moving around. For me at the moment, a studio, 1-bedroom apartment, will do me fine, you know, wherever I go. I mean, that might change. Obviously you get married, you settle down. But regardless of the situations you're in, if we look at those 3 bands, if you say aim for $1,500 a month, you'll be all right, you'll be comfortable. $1,500 to $3,000 a month, you'll be able to lead a very comfortable, very good, you know, standard of living. 3,000 plus, you got it, mate. You know, you won't have to worry about eating here, doing there, whatever, you know. It's like anything in life. Whichever way you look at it, a pound to a penny, it's a lot cheaper than your home life in your home country. You know, London, $5,000 a month, you're not going to live very comfortably there. You're going to struggle. I'm sure you will in a lot of American cities. So it's a question of balancing. It's a question of being realistic. You know, as I say, $1,500 a month, $1,000 a month, you're not going to have the opportunity to do a lot of things that you might want to do. But can you do that in your home country? I mean, can you? that kind of money, I'd say in the UK, you're just surviving. I mean, you really are surviving. If you're in the UK, health coverage is free. Have enough money for a emergency fund in case you get sick over here or whatever. But a lot of conditions, you'll just be able to go back to your home country, and get fixed there. So what I'm saying is, be realistic, but don't necessarily fear it. I mean, I've seen a few videos saying you need to have 200,000, emergency funds for this and for that. $200,000. I mean, I don't think you need that at all. I mean, if you've got your UK state pension and a little private pension on top of that, I mean, maybe you've got property in the UK. I mean, that's the way I look at things. I mean, I've got my pension, but I've got a couple of properties in the UK. So as I get older, they will be my emergency funds. They bring income into me. That's how I live at the moment. But I'm not going to keep them forever. I'm not going to live forever. So a time will come when when my pensions kick in. I've got 3 pensions that will come in. I've got a private pension, I've got my Air Force pension, I've got a state pension. And then I'll have the income coming in from one of the houses. I'll probably sell the other one, and that will be my emergency funds, when I get to the stage that I don't have, can't get health insurance and I've got to self-insure. I mean, that's my plan. But everyone's got to work out their own plans. But you can do it on a state pension. You could do it on a state pension over here. But you need to have some emergency funds. You do need to, or you could end up in one hell of a hole. But I'd say, if you can access, say you got set-up fees are coming over here, it's like £5,000 to get yourself set up and cover, incidentals as you go along. Base yourself on a budget of a certain limit, be it $1,000, be it $2,000 a month. If you can live with that, and you've got access to £40,000 in case there's an emergency or something like that, whether it's in savings accounts, stocks or shares or whatever, I think you'll be all right over it. I mean, I would say do it. If you're thinking about it, do it. If you don't have any emergency funds, if you've not got the full state pension, you might want to think twice. Or come over here in the knowledge that you're going to struggle to have a relationship, in the sense that if you get with a partner, that's going to put your living costs up. She's got kids and things. You're very quickly going to become overstretched, in my opinion. So be realistic about what you're going to do. If you're coming over on a small amount, you might have to stay single. Maybe you want to stay single, Anyway, I've rambled here. I'm trying to get a bit more content out, than I have been. I've been lazy over the last few months, do 2 or 3 videos a day. So I'll be banging out a bit more, but I don't script them. It's raw and unfiltered. But that's what I think now. That's my honest opinion. 8 months in, my cost did increase from my initial estimates. I'd say now I'm living around the $1,500 a month mark. That's roughly what it cost me. Be the odd month when it goes over that, a couple of months when it's gone over that. In a couple of months like now, this month it's going to come in, I think, about the $1,200 a month mark. But there'll always be something to buy. I'll get a laptop soon, because that one's not going to last. There's always a phone to buy, there's always this, there's always that. There's always going to be something. The furniture I bought in Sick Hill, because I sold it to the guy that moved in, but didn't get half what I paid for it. I mean, there'll always be something. So think about that. Don't think you're going to be able to come here and live on $1,000 or $1,500 a month and you're not going to need extra here and there, because you are. That's the reality. Anyway, I've gone on a bit too long, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you find it useful. Let me know in the comments, what do you live on? Do you think it's doable? Am I right that you can live on $1,500 a month? Can you really live like a king on $3,000 plus a month? Be very interested to know. Anyway, if you like the video, like the button. Be great if you subscribed. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are, stay safe, be lucky.